Church where I pastor started in Rockingham Estate in Elephant and Castle by Reverend Paul and Kate Jinodu in 1986. The church has over 70 branches in the UK now. I started pastoring the branch in Elephant and Castle in 1997. What fruit are you seeing? The number of churches planted. From 2000 to now, the branch that I pastor, which we call Bermondsey branch now, has through the colonization model planted 7 churches. The colonization is when you plant a church in a geographical area different from yours. The first one was planted in Camberwell. During COVID, their meeting place was shut down, so they had to move. They are now in Bexley. The second one we planted was in Dunstable. Third one in Medway. Fourth in Chafford-Hundred. Fifth in Barking, now in Woolwich. Another one in Welling and one in Chatham. Presently in our church building along Old Kent Road, we run a multi-congregational model. That is English church meeting 10 to 12 noon, a French church 1 to 3 p.m. and a Spanish church 3:30 to 5:30 p.m. What have you learned? Going as directed by the Lord bears fruit. And we've run many outreaches from our church over the years. One we call We Care. That is just meeting needs on outreaches. We do car wash, we give free water and all of that, different seasons. We have servant evangelism street witnessing, like every other month. We rotate that with We Care. Every other month we go out on the streets, we witness to people. We have prayer walks once in a year, and it's been organized, it's been going on for like 15 years. Every street in our catchment area is covered, and that's our service for that particular day of the year. We run a healing room in the building. We've been ministering in old people's home along Tower Bridge, no? Is it Tower Bridge Road? Yes. Is that Tower Bridge Road? Anyway, in Elephant and Castle area. For over 15 years, we meet there every week to minister to them. We have a bookshop in our building. We run a food bank now on Sundays. We run a bag of hope, which is Christmas time, to give goodies to people who can't afford it. It costs us about £10,000, £12,000 every December. Our building is open for community use, particularly faith groups and the council. So depending on the Holy Spirit, trusting in and yielding to Him is the key to fruitfulness. What are you praying for next? Revival and saturating the borough with gospel.
On my right, Will do you want to introduce yourself, Will?
So yes, I'm Will Cookson. I'm the Director of Mission for the Diocese of Southwark. So I cover the whole of Southwark, out from Thamesmead out to Richmond, all the way down to Gatwick Airport. 350 churches, all the rest of it. There was a vicar who went off to America, it's a true story, went off to America, and they asked when their church was planted, and he put in 1215. And they said, we didn't want the time, we wanted the date, and of course. We have both the advantage as a state church of longevity, but also, therefore, how do you renew the renewed in time? And so we've got this strategy as a diocese that we are covering the breadth of tradition, from very Catholic to very evangelical to charismatic to the whole caboodle. How do we renew these different churches? And we've seen some huge changes happening in the diocese. We're investing significant resources into helping that breadth of church to grow and thrive. Charlie Lamont later on, because I can't be here for the panel, as a good Anglican I have meetings to go to, we'll be talking about some of the specifics in Southwark Borough but we are seeing it across the diocese. We're one of the fastest growing dioceses in the country. Wow. We're seeing some amazing things happen, and some of the areas that very easily, as evangelicals, it's easy to overlook. You know that choirs are one of the most popular things that people can do in this country. Wow. More people attend choirs and go to football matches, which is not surprising after last night. But, so what are you doing around choirs? What are you doing around people's interests that don't align with what you normally do in your church? And that's one of the questions, of course, we can address as a church, because the breadth of the church is so wide. So we've got one church that a few years ago, they had 3 children at their harvest festival. They now have around about 200 on a Friday and 200 on a Sunday afternoon. They have grown through the roof. Very charismatic, so very Catholic, smells and bells, but they've seen the doubling of their congregation in the last year. So much of our work is now also going into models of church. How do we create models that other churches can adopt? Have any of you come across Bubble Church, Bunny?
Yeah.
Yeah, so some of you have come across Bubble Church. That's now in 80 churches across the Church of England, and I think they're taking to Australia next. But that started as a project that was part of my remit to help and support. We're looking at 10 different things. We're looking at the state churches, we're looking at sacramental youth, we're looking at children, a whole range of different projects that we're looking to help our churches grow and thrive. We're also looking at church grafts and church planting and seeing some great success stories on that. One of the things that we've noticed is the need for and it's great to see that breadth is here, the greater change away from white middle-aged men, Umi, to the global majority heritage. So the 4 out of our last 5 church grafts were led by global majority heritage, 2 of them women. It's fantastic to see that breadth coming about. We have a whole series of second language congregations across the diocese, quite a few Hispanic, Lugandan, we have Filipino, German, the whole range, and we really want to encourage all that. So there's really a huge amount to encourage. The work is never finished with 350 parishes and the different contexts, but we're really encouraged by all that we're seeing so far.
We didn't choose anything. We were in Italy, very well settled. In a certain moment, God started to speak to us with several prophetic words to come in London, to come in England, because my husband was used to live here a lot of years ago, and we have received several prophetic words to come back here. We just obey, even if you know that UK now is closed for Brexit, and we say, God, what you will do, because now we cannot go. So we have now a missionary visa for 1 year that is almost expiring, and we came with our car with the 3 kids. We have to pray, yes, because in 15th of August we are supposed to go back home. So we need a miracle. And we came here with our 3 kids, and I was looking the map of London with my husband, and we say, God, if we choose, we can choose, I don't know, Finchley or the area for kids, for families, but we want to go where you choose, where you have the church, we taught the church, also for my English is improving, okay, where you have taught the church. And for an apparent mistake, we came in Southwark, in Elephant and Castle. We came and it was an apparent mistake of someone who had to give us a house, but it was not anymore. And we were like, is this the right place at the beginning? But the second day that I was here, I was walking with my kids and I saw the place where I'm living and I say, I have saw this, where I have been here. And I just remember that in July of the year previous, God gave me the dream and He made me see where we are now. So the hill, the building, everything was the same. The school where my kids are now, I saw everything. I saw my house and say, wow. So everything was led by you, God. And we have had a lot of confirmation, prophetic word, people who saw Southwark and saw a lot of confirmation. And we just started here to plant a church in October of the last year.
So I lead a thing called New Day, which is the youth thing, a big youth festival, which happens next week. So we've got 12,000 people coming together to camp together for a week. 8,000 of them are teenagers, so if you want to pray for that, we would appreciate it. But yeah, it's actually quite similar to your story in a way, in that a long time ago, there maybe 18, 19 years ago, I was living in Bristol and felt God speak to me really dramatically and clearly about moving back to London to get involved with church planting, and to Greenwich in particular. So we moved to Greenwich and we planted a church called Emmanuel. But as soon as we moved, we felt like, I say we, my wife Livy's in the back in the corner there, you'll meet her later. We felt like actually what God was putting on our hearts was a church that would multiply around London, and that we'd plant many, be involved in helping start loads of churches. And one of the places that we quickly felt like we would love to start something in or near was London Bridge. And so we prayed for that as a church, and over the years we were praying that God would send some people, and then eventually it turned out that God's plan was for us to go. So we've handed on that church in Greenwich, and we've moved kind of our focus into the London Bridge area. We've been there 2 years. We are starting a new church called Redemption. What fruit are you seeing and what have you learned? I was thinking, the fruit we're seeing, I would say, is the slow ripening kind. So I guess our focus really has been, we're trying to help anyone that comes basically be transformed into a missional disciple. So we've kind of said, sometimes use the language, we feel like we need 2 miracles to see someone saved. The first one is that we ourselves need to be transformed into bold missionaries. And the second one is that then through that, God needs to then work in other people's lives and bring them to Christ. So that's a slow process, but we've seen some encouragements and a few people that are coming along, a part of the community, the unbelievers that are kind of looking in and finding their way forward. What have we learned? I would say probably one of the big lessons I've learned is that every church plant is different. So if you've had kids, you probably had the experience if you have one kid and you think, oh, I know how to raise kids now, and then you have a second kid and you think, what happened? Like they're just like a completely different species. Yeah. And so we planted a church in Greenwich, and we, it went in one direction, and then we planted this other one, and we've realised this is just so radically different. It feels like the world is a different place to plant churches in, even than it did 17, 18 years ago. So I feel that's been quite important for us. And I think in our our sense of vision and faith to multiply churches across London, one of the things we've realised is that we're going to need like a fundamental transformation of the very nature of Christianity. Yeah. Wow. So it's not just that we need to get more churches going, it's that we need a revival of what Christianity looks like. The expression of Christianity needs to change in the nation for us to be able to multiply churches and get the saturation vision. So I guess that's one of my big prayers that I've been praying for a long time, is just for that change of the expression of what Christianity looks like in our nation.
The question is, what are we doing leading a microchurch?
So what did the church look like for the first 300 years? There were no church buildings. There were homes, there were meal tables, there was food, there was laughter, there was conversation, there was prayer, there was an occasional song. That was what church looked like for the first 300 years. It was actually incredibly fast because it grew so quickly, and it's that which really generates disciples that can make disciples. People who know that they've been invested in, and therefore they've got the confidence to invest in others and reproduce that kind of church. Isn't that the kind of church that we want to see? That's what I'm praying for. I believe the church is ready for that kind of multiplication.